Welcome into your brand new betting preview for this week's WGC Dell Technologies Match Play. I'm Rick Gaiman. That right there, Andy Lack. Andy, we've got a good one this week.
Yeah, it's good to be back, man. I love this event. We were just talking a little bit off air about what we think we're going to do with this. Do you have a solution for how we can include match play on the PGA Tour? Because I can give you mine, but I want to hear yours first.
My solution is grand. Mine is a match play major. Where you so what you need to do is you need to take the week off prior, so you'd have a bye week leading into it. You would have 128 players, so that is 32 groups of 4. You would need to build in a bye week or bye day on Thursday, but it would last the entire week. It would give the PGA Tour their own major championship, which they do not currently have, and they would go from having control over 0 out of the 4 biggest events of the year to having control of 2 of the biggest 5 events of the year. It makes too much sense to do it that way.
Okay, that's pretty good. I was going to go with the Tour Championship should be match play.
Also a good option.
Where they should just have the top 16 players in the FedEx Cup standings play at like a rotating course as the final tournament of the year. But I mean, I like yours too. I mean, let's not forget the PGA Championship started as match play and used to be match play all the way up through the 50s and 60s. So I'm bummed that we don't really have a home for this format going forward, but at least we get to enjoy it this week.
Yeah, the haters of my idea say you can't have a match play major, which if they look back historically, there was a match play major, the PGA Championship, as you know. And they also say, what's the other thing that they really
boring Sunday?
Yeah, boring Sundays. Yeah. And people don't like match play. It's like, really, I play match play all the time with my buddies. Like, that's like how we do it.
Yeah, that's how 99% of people play golf when they play golf with people. Yeah.
And the other thing is, well, you can't just add a major. It's like, why not? We have all just agreed to call them majors. Like, there's no committee that says what is a major and what is not. If the PGA Tour came out tomorrow and said X event is a major championship, we would all act accordingly.
Okay, final question for you on your proposed major. Are LIV players are they included or not?
Yeah, I think so. What I think you would do is you'd say like the top 100 in the FedEx Cup standings. So that gives you whatever. Then you say anybody who was on the most recent President's Cup and Ryder Cup teams, if they are not already qualified. So that might only be a couple more guys. And then you say, however many spots are left go to the OWGR for those who are not currently qualified.
Okay. So
they can play them. There's a path for them to get in.
Yeah. Okay. I like that a lot. Yeah. I mean, honestly, let's hope. But again, like Austin Country Club, if this is our final goodbye to this course, I'm pretty bummed, but again, I'm very much looking forward to the week ahead.
Here's the bracket. In all its glory, 16 groups of 4, round robin for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then 1 golfer from each group will advance into the elimination stage, and then it's single elimination moving forward. So we not only have the bracket here, Andy, but we've got the odds checker grid, which is going to show us the outright odds across a bunch of different sports books so that we can kind of compare these and get the best odds that are available. So let's zoom out for a second. How do we even start attacking a betting board with a bracket?
So, I mean, I totally understand the people that went out there and grabbed some early numbers on guys without the bracket being released yet. There were some appetizing 35s on Colin Morikawa on DraftKings and some 40s on Tyrrell Hatton. Those are all now gone. So I totally understand the people that said, screw the bracket. I don't really care about the draw. I'm going to go grab this great number on a guy that I think has a legitimate chance to win this tournament regardless of his draw. What I did was I waited for the bracket to come out and I selected one player from each, I guess we could call like quadrant,
or if you want to stay in like the March Madness mindset, you could call them regions, right?
Yeah. Something like that. So I kind of, and this is how I'm thinking about it for DraftKings too, which I'll talk about a little bit more in the article coming out after. But, I tried to select one player from each quadrant, and that felt like a somewhat optimal strategy from a betting perspective. I don't know if I would recommend taking the route of picking players in the same quadrant just because they have good numbers. I don't I wouldn't suggest that because I don't think it's the most optimal approach to betting this event. I think it's very hard to hit a winner at this tournament, but if at least you can put yourself in a position where you can hopefully get to a point where you have one or two guys in the Final Four and maybe you can hedge, that's basically what I'm hoping for here. What about you?
Yeah, I was on VSiN this morning and I kind of offered up the same advice, right? They were like, how does someone approach this? And I said, you know what? I think the smartest way to get involved is make 4 outright bets, 1 from each region, and see how far. I mean, because you're going to get a lot of opportunity to bet. I mean, literally the matchups are constant, right? You're getting matchups every single day. You can bet a ton of matchups. You can continue to bet as this thing gets going. So like there's going to be a lot of opportunities. I think from an outright perspective, just grabbing a guy in each one of the quadrants makes sense. So when I overlay that concept with the betting board here, Andy, Odds Checker has us with Scotty Scheffler obviously being the favorite at 8-1 and defending champion, John Rahm at 11, Rory McIlroy at 14, Patrick Cantlay at 18. Those are the only golfers shorter than 20-1, and then you kind of get into some guys like Max Homa and Tony Finau and Jordan Spieth, so on and so forth. So where are the clicks to be made here?
Well, I went with Patrick Cantlay at 20. It seems like 18 is the best available now. I really like the 20. I guess I still endorse it at 18, but there are a couple things with Cantlay. First of all, I think his group is extremely unintimidating. I mean, I don't really have too many concerns about Brian Harman, Cage Lee, or Nick Taylor. I think that is one of the most advantageous draws for a top tier player. Even his potential second round matchup, I don't even like the group above him with Burns, Power, Scott, and Hadwin. So I just think Cantlay has an extremely easy roadmap to at least get to the quarterfinals. And I love the way he's hitting the ball. He's striping it off the tee right now, and he's had a great history of success at shorter positional Pete Dye courses. So Cantlay is my guy this week at the top, Rick. What about you?
Yep, which I think that out of that lower left-hand region, out of that lower left-hand quadrant, I think it's Patrick Cantlay, and I think it's Max Homa. I think that Cantlay is also like really annoying to play in match play, right? I mean, he's very, very deliberate. I mean, he's annoying to watch on TV.
Yeah.
Great putter, lots of match play experience. He's very, very good. You're never going to get him rattled, like super annoying to play against in match play. The other one would be Max Homa, who is, incredibly well-rounded. This is a week where in match play, first in often wins, right? If you can roll the rock, you can put a lot of pressure on your opponent. He's got a really solid voice in Joe Greiner on the bag. Just playing great golf. And I agree with you that lower left quadrant, the other 3 guys in group 4, everybody in group 13, even some of these guys out of Max Homa's group, which is Hideki, who's been all over the place, Kisner, who's been horrible, and then Justin Suh, who's been showing signs of life. Like, it's not that bottom left region is fairly weak, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, the biggest wild card to me is probably the Spieth, Lowry, Taylor Montgomery, Mackenzie Hughes group, just because that group has 2 of the best. I mean, depending on Spieth, he's either like the worst putter in the world or a top 10 putter in the world. But that group at least has 2 of the best putters in the world. So I guess that's the only one where you would say, oh, okay, this one's a little bit of a wild card. But I agree with you. I think in that was the easiest selection for me to make in that quadrant/region. So I went with Cantlay there, and then I chose 3 other guys from the other 3 groups.
Okay, let's go up to upper left hand here. That's Scotty's group, Sung Jae's group, Colin's group, and Victor's group. 1, 16, 9, and 8, the upper left hand region that we have here. This is pretty interesting statistically. Group 9, Morikawa, Day, Svensson, Victor, Perez is the toughest draw over the last 36 rounds that Colin has to get out of. So how did you allocate resources up here?
Yeah, I think that this region is the most fun, in my opinion. I think that it presents the most fun potential second round matchup between Morikawa and Hovland. I think that Sung Jae is interesting. I think that Fleetwood is interesting. And then what do we do with Scotty? Like, he hasn't finished worse than second in his last 2 appearances here. I was talking to a friend last night on the podcast, and it's just like, in any other sport, 8-1, what Scotty Scheffler's doing right now, when Tiger was doing it, he was even money to win these tournaments. I have Scotty just getting upset because I think I have Scotty fatigue, but how do you handle a player that seems to be on top of his game, returning to a course that he has had so much success at before. Like, is 8-1 really a bad number?
I mean, I don't think it necessarily is. First off, we know, I mean, he's got no problem defending titles, right? He defends his title in
No.
Phoenix and gives it a pretty good crack at Bay Hill. And what I love about him is just you're just going to get basically the same thing every single week, and you're going to get the same thing every single day. He's gonna hit it well from tee to green. He's going to put a lot of pressure on his opponents if he makes a couple of putts. He's super dangerous. Talk about. I also think there is, I've mentioned caddies, and I'm going to continue to mention caddies. Like having Ted Scott on the bag, having someone like that in a match play format where it's punch, counter punch, all this stuff, like it's really solid. I mean, even Tom Kim with Joe Skovron, right? Like, I mean, just having that voice, I think, is really important in weeks like this. So no, if you just want to, if you want Scotty to be your guy in the upper left-hand quadrant, I'm not going to beat you up over it. I do think that there are some interesting long shots, like Adam Svensson's playing well again. Jason Day is in the last 36, one of only 4 golfers.
Siwoo's unbelievable on Pete Dye courses.
Siwoo, Pete Dye match play, just like the volatile nature. Like, I don't even love the draw. I don't love the draw for Colin. I don't love the draw for Victor. I mean, Chris Kirk just won a couple of weeks ago. Siwoo is an absolute wild card, and Matt Kuchar has been great at this event as well. So, I mean, I think 9 and 8 is kind of a tough place to come out of. So, yeah, if you wanted to get like Scotty or Tom Kim or Tommy or Sungjae, like I'm cool with those.
Yeah, the bet that I ended up making in this region was Sungjae at 35-1. I would have liked to bet Morikawa at 35-1, and I just missed it. Look, it's up to 40 now, so you can even get a better number on Sungjae. I locked into 35, and I was okay with it. But I just feel like of the guys in that region, that number on Sungjae was the best. I had been looking at him pretty closely, and the reason why I wasn't betting him was because he played like 8 weeks in a row, and he finally got that week off now from the Valspar, so he should be charged up and ready to go. You have Fleetwood up there. That's probably my biggest concern is, can he get past Fleetwood, who's playing such great golf right now?
I'm pretty interested in this. 45-1 for Tommy Fleetwood. He's playing great golf. He does it. It's well-rounded, right? I mean, you talk about even keel guys, and I think, it's I was kind of just gaming this theory out where, Tommy, for whatever reason, has obviously struggled closing on Sundays on the PGA Tour. And yes, I wonder if it's a different mindset of, hey, I have to beat everybody on this leaderboard, or I have to beat the guy in front of me right now on this one hole. That feels much more obtainable and much smaller if Tommy can kind of justify it in that way.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, you look at, he's playing great golf. He's had a ton of great success before at these types of kind of shorter positional second shot golf courses, some success at Pete Dye courses in the past before, whether it be Harbor Town or the Players Championship. So I have absolutely no problem with Fleetwood. I think this is the most fun region, to be honest with you, even with the dominance of Scotty. And I don't even like, galaxy brain question, but if Scotty just absolutely rolls, is that like good for golf right now?
No. Like if Rahm rolls, yes, because Rahm is he's not a villain, but he's like the most villainous guy that we have on the PGA Tour at the moment. Scotty, usually when you have a dynasty or something like that, you have people who love it, you have people who hate it. It's really hard to kind of feel a lot of emotion either way towards Scotty.
It's such a weird one because dynasties are usually like really good for ratings in team sports, but something about watching Scotty there was no drama at the Players. There's never, once he gets in position, you never think that he's going to do something stupid or blow it. And you find yourself kind of dozing off watching him sometimes.
Yeah. If we continue this on here and you do want to get into a bracket challenge. So I have the Rick Run Good bracket challenge. We'll have a link in the description for it. The password you need is Tiger. I'm giving away some prizes to the top 10 and all that stuff. And it'll probably again be the largest bracket challenge on PGAtour.com, which is something that I take pride in so that we can kind of show everybody like, hey, we're going to show up for this. The upper right-hand side of things, that's the John Rahm, Cam Young, Tony Finau, Will Zalatoris side. John Rahm gets a pretty gauntlet draw with Billy Horschel, Keith Mitchell, Ricky Fowler, and then a lot of options that I think could come out of the rest of these groups.
Yeah, this is a fun one. I went with Finau at 25-1. He rated out so well for me from a statistical standpoint. And while he hasn't been winning at the same rate as he was at the end of last year, he's still hitting the ball great. He's still racking up top 20 finishes. He's still contending in these tournaments. He's developed an extremely high floor. And I'm not super scared of his group, at least. I mean, I think it sets up a really potential interesting quarterfinal matchup with Rom. But in terms of like Moronk and Bezadenhout and Kitayama, I think that's a relatively benign group. And again, the potential second round matchup, you know, Will Zalatoris, and he talked about this in a recent interview too. Like, I still don't know if he's a fully back to 100%. You know, the injury that he recently had, it caused him to have to make a swing change, right? Like he literally was forced to have to change his swing to accommodate for the injury that he was dealing with. And it seems like he's just not all the way there. You see, he's coming off a performance at the Players where he lost strokes ball striking. And obviously the putter over the last two starts has been extremely concerning. So I'm okay with Finau's draw if he can just get past Rahm in the quarterfinals. And I thought 25-1 was a pretty fair number. What about you?
Yeah, so I don't think I'll be able to play him for DFS purposes because Cameron Young is going to be incredibly popular. But if you can still get like a 33 or a 35 hanging on him,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of interesting little nuggets here. I mean, I just think when he bombs it past you every single hole, it's going to be annoying. He's getting better on and around the greens, which he's historically been good. He's got Paul Tesori on the bag this week. He makes a ton of birdies. Like I think Cam Young in this format is big trouble for a lot of guys.
Do you think that's the most fun second round potential matchup? Rahm Young or Morikawa Hovland?
Morikawa Hovland's cool because they shot that like I think they shot like a best ball 59 or something like that at the Ryder Cup.
Played
right?
at the
Like,
Ryder
it's just
Cup.
like absolutely insane. But this would be an absolute driving display if we got Rahm and Cam Young in the Sweet 16. Like that would be a lot of firepower in one spot.
Yeah, two best drivers of the ball in the world. If you had to pick a long shot from this group, where would you go? Because I think Ryan Fox and even Corey Connors are a little bit interesting.
So Fox is like a light version of Cam Young, where he's going to hit it far and he's going to put a lot of pressure on you. He's been playing well now that he came over to the PGA Tour for his last couple starts. But I'm not nearly as high on Tony Finau as you are, and that could be wrong because I usually bend to the data, and there's nothing in the data that says I should be at all concerned about Tony Finau, except that he's never made it out of his group, and I don't know if he's honestly, Andy, too nice for match play. Right? Like I need Kurt Kitayama is a dog. And Kurt Kitayama is going to just like try to stomp you. So I don't mind Kitayama getting out of 10 and trying to make a run at this thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I mean, that would be the guy too, because I have some questions about Bezadenhout and Moronk too. But yeah, I think that's a fun one. And then, and then we get to the final one where I don't know. Does this feel like a Rory McIlroy course to you, Rick?
Interesting. So his last win did he win here or at Dove Mountain? I think he might have won it here. Oh, no,
I don't think so.
It was Harding Park. The first year they did it, it was at Harding Park.
Yeah, he won at Harding Park. And do you really see Rory McIlroy wanting to play 7 matches 10 days before the Masters?
No, I also saw that Jonathan Wall had posted that he's like been testing a new putter this morning. So, which is always
making changes right before majors.
So he's testing a putter, and we know he's been trying to find a driver that works for him. And I honestly don't think this is a great draw. Keegan's playing the best golf of his life, and Keegan is annoying, right? That's hard to play in match play. Denny McCarthy might make 200 feet of putts on you and just steal a match from you there. Like, I do not think that this is particularly a great Rory draw. I will probably, as I fill out my bracket, not have him come out of this group.
And then Hatton's playing some of the best golf of his career too. You're right. I had Keegan coming out of there in an upset, and then I have him losing to Hatton in the next round. For me, this is the one where there's a lot of potential craziness. I think that group of Fitzpatrick, Theegala, Minwoo Lee, and JJ Spaun is really weak, and I have no idea what to do with it. It seems like Fitzpatrick is still hurt / tinkering. Like there's either something wrong with him physically, or he's going through some potential swing change. Everything I've heard is that he has been working on things with a capital W on the range recently. And then like the Xander group is just a list of my potential all-stars favorite golfers. I'm fine with whoever you want to take out of that group. I ended up going with Hoagie, but I have no problem with any of the four. But what are you doing down here in this final region?
So this is tough. I think if you're looking for like a favorite, I think I think Hatton makes a ton of sense. Where's the odds here? So Hatton is 25 to 1. Fine. If you want to go that route, that's fine. I do think there's a lot of I think this bottom right region offers a lot of these like weird guys to get to the final four. Sahith would be one of them. Right. I mean, make a bunch of birdies, offset it with a double. It doesn't really matter because this is match play. That's only losing
ton of volatility.
Yeah. He's 70 to 1 in what is probably the weakest group with Matt Fitzpatrick, as you mentioned. Like, and even if you are somewhat ailing in any part, like having an ailment before you have to play 7 matches in 5 days does not feel particularly great.
Right.
So I would not be super surprised to see like a Sahith Tom Hoagie matchup in the Sweet 16, right? And then that ends up, okay, well, now you get high. Now you're in the Elite 8. And now, it's just like, so I think this bottom right-hand region, whether it's Sahith, whether it's Cam Davis, like if you want to get yourself a long shot, I think this is the region to pull it out of.
I agree. This is the biggest long shot bet I made of the 4, which was, I mean, in my bracket, I have Hatton advancing to the final 4, but the bet that I made to be a little bit more responsible with the other bets that I already have down is Hoagie at 70, which I think is a pretty good number. But yeah, I think if I was to make a guess on the side of the bracket that has the most madness, it's probably this one. I mean, I remember last year with Xander, he was a very popular selection. I remember betting him. He had a really weak group last year, and it was a really, really disappointing performance. So until he shows to me, something's going on with him off the tee right now too. So until he shows to me that this is a golf course that he can have a tremendous amount of success on, that I'm going to roll the dice with some longer shots down here.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a volatile, weird event. I mean, remember that last year we tied the record. Eight of the top seeds got out of their group. That tied the record for the most ever. 8, half of them, which means half of them are probably not or more. Historically, since we've changed to this format, only 33% of the top seeds have made it out. 2021, Jon Rahm was the only top seed to get out, one guy. And then historically, the most common number that we've seen is about 5. About 5 of the top seeds are going to make it out. So as it's easy to look at this on paper and say, Homa, Spieth, Burns, Morikawa, Victor, Scotty Scheffler, Jon Rahm, they're all the best players. Of course they are. That's not – there's a lot of weird stuff that can happen here.
Last question, I guess, before we get to like the next part with maybe matchups or prize picks and stuff like that. But do you think that maybe the absence of the live golfers makes this a little bit easier for some of the top seeds, maybe?
Of course, yes, I do. So we've been kind of keeping track of this the last year or so, where the guys in a normal PGA Tour event, 25 to 1 to 60 to 1, they have not nearly been winning as much as pre-live because those guys generally resided there, and that middle of the board is a lot softer. We're seeing top end guys win golf tournaments more and more frequently at a rate we haven't seen before. And I do think it will lend itself here. So I do think that if we got 6, 7, or 8 of the top seeds out of this, I would still say, wow, that historically skews towards the upper end. I don't think we're going to get like 12 or 13, but I do think we are going to start trending in that direction where more of the top seeds get out, because I do think that the middle is weaker.
I agree. I'm looking at some of these guys, and it just, I don't know if it's felt like in the past we had as many Nick Taylors and Adam Hadwins and Mackenzie Hughes and Matt Kuchars as it seems like we do this year. But yeah, I think it's going to be a blast, and I'm excited to get going tomorrow morning.
All right, let's talk a little bit about matchups. Now, this is interesting because I have not, and somebody can point me out if I'm wrong. From what I could not find any like tournament long matchups, which makes sense because you just basically get every single day the match that is happening, which is fun. It makes a lot of sense for books. The one that jumped off the screen at me, so I've got Bet365 up right now. The one that I saw here right off the bat was taking Tom Hoagie over Aaron Wise. You mentioned the good stuff about Tom Hoagie, which I absolutely agree with. And unfortunately, the Aaron Wise stuff is like, I don't know what has happened here, right? I mean, he spent 2 years as a top 25 tee to green player in the world, and he is either hemorrhaging strokes tee to green or losing them. And either way, it's not good. It's 4 out of 5 events in which he's missed the cut. He's like, this is not a stat profile that looks anything like the Wise DNA. Like I would be picking on him.
Yeah, those numbers with Wise are pretty terrifying. And I'm even willing to say like that TPC Sawgrass is a really strange course where things can get out of hand really quickly and get exacerbated if you don't have it. I'm even willing to give him the break on that. You go down a little bit farther and it extends where same thing at Arnold Palmer Invitational. He's losing strokes, ball striking as well in Phoenix, like another place that should be a good course for him. So I agree. I have Hoagie advancing out of that group, and I think it's kind of a steal to get him at what, like -110.
Yeah, the other cool thing about this is, and I want to get your thoughts on this because we never get to talk about it. So in no other tournament would we ever get a Rory McIlroy versus Scott Stallings matchup. It would always be Rory versus Rahm, Rory versus Scheffler, Rory versus whatever, which by the way, whatever book wants to just let you build your own matchups and assign the odds to it, like take all my money. But now because Rory is going to play Scott Stallings, right? And Jon Rahm is going to play whoever, we get these kind of bigger numbers that we don't normally see. So like Rory McIlroy -188 to Scott Stallings +220. Not necessarily this matchup in particular, Andy, but dealing with these larger gaps that we don't normally see. Like is Rory McIlroy going to beat Scott Stallings like 65% of the time, 66% of the time?
Probably not. I mean, I don't even like Scott Stallings that much this week. I would prefer Keegan or Denny to get out of the group, but I would definitely take the +220 in that matchup. I mean, how much are you willing to lay, right? Are you basically just looking at this and saying, I'm going to look to take the underdog pretty much every time? Or are you comfortable laying like -120, -115, -125 on some of these ones?
I think I am generally comfortable, but the underdog odds are quite I mean, Ricky Fowler +145 to Jon Rahm. Jon Rahm's only -125, which is kind of surprising. But like looking at like Adam Hadwin +140 to Sam Burns. Sam Burns has like not been good. And Adam Hadwin has like the perfect match play skill set of like get hot with the irons, get hot with the putter. Like that's like and it's such a small sample, right? Like in match play, Adam Hadwin might make 2 35-footers, and that might just be enough to win the match.
Right. I completely agree. Even like and I love the way that Spieth is playing right now, but Mackenzie Hughes, one of the best putters in the world at +160. It's just a big number for 18 holes of golf where there's so much volatility involved. So yeah, I agree. At kind of a macro level, I would say probably for the round by round matchups, I'm probably a little bit more interested in the underdogs.
Yeah, it's like if these guys are all so tight that like, okay, if Sam Burns or anybody, like, you know, Sam Burns gives up a hole, loses a hole, and then Hadwin like hoops a couple and wins and steals 2, like this thing's like over. Like that's it. Like they might, you know what I mean? So it's pretty cool and a very good viewing experience. Let's continue this conversation with props and one and done, but we are going to take a quick break and hear a word here on Andy's podcast. Andy Lack is one of the nerdiest golf guys that I know, and I mean that as an absolute compliment. His knowledge of course architecture allows him to create some of the most actionable course previews available, and he offers up pure expertise on his own podcast, the Inside Golf Podcast. Twice a week, he offers course breakdowns, DFS, and betting strategy for every PGA Tour event, and he expands the universe by bringing on entertaining and knowledgeable guests who can offer a different viewpoint of the game that we love. Follow Inside Golf Pod on Twitter and download Inside Golf wherever you download podcasts. And we're back. So I'll admit here. So PrizePicks, our friends over at PrizePicks, do not have the props up, which I'm not going to lie. That's very disappointing because we're
running out of time.
We are less than 24 hours away from such a good, like this is the perfect event with all these little micro things happening to have blasted the board with PGA props. And there is nothing. be very straight up with everybody. Like, that's a miss. Like, PrizePicks is a great partner. That's a whiff. They should have this up.
Especially with like the birdies or better potential matchups that you can have, where you have the matchups already built in for you and you don't even have to like figure it out. It's
Yeah,
right there for
there's
you.
literally no, like, just post the matchups and set them all to 0 and say birdie or better. Like, tough.
Layup. Yeah. Well, anyway, I mean, yeah, I think like that's probably what I would do, because I don't think there's any scenario like they're not going to put out like fairways and greens this week, right?
No,
Probably
because
not.
the data track and in their defense, what I imagine it is I imagine that their data provider does not support the match play, which is not
right.
super crazy. So no, I can't imagine there's going to be fair. What I think they will do, or what they should do is just everybody at 0, list all the matchups, and then you just go on there and build them with the favorites. And they would probably rake that week because we talked about how volatile this is.
Yeah, because people would probably take a lot of the favorites and kind of parlay them together and get crushed. So yeah, I don't know. I will be checking back as the hours go on for the rest of this day, that I hope maybe we get something at the 11th hour. But that's what I would hope for, is that there's probably going to be, if PrizePicks does put out birdies or better or stuff or matchups at 0.0, then maybe look towards that instead of on some of the favorites that you like, instead of laying the juice.
Agreed. So here's what you should do. Use the code Rick. There's a link in the description. Get your bonus money ready. Go smash PrizePicks in some other sports, because they don't have the golf stuff buff, and then tweet at them and say, what are you doing? Put the golf stuff up. All right, one and done. So this is kind of an interesting week, Andy, because it's an elevated event. It's $20 million in the purse. It's $3.6 million to first, but we've seen like Kevin Kisner make a deep run. We've seen like Victor Dubuisson make a deep. We've seen like this is. It's kind of scary to burn an elite in an event that he might not get out of his own group.
Yeah. By the way, did you pick Scotty at the Players?
No, I picked Rory at the Players, and he missed.
Okay. I don't know why I had it in my head that you picked Scotty.
So in ours, so I had Scotty in Phoenix, so I had already used him. You used him at the API. You got 800,000. Yeah. I used Rory and got 0 last.
I got
Players.
JT, who finished T60.
55,000. Yeah. For $25 million in the purse, we combined got 55,250.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I mean, I think with this one, I mean, are you okay using like how deep down the odds board would you go with this?
So I cannot use him, but I do think that like Cam Young, I think is really interesting.
Agreed.
Are you going to use Cam Young at another elevated event? I think the answer is at best, maybe, but probably not. And if you use him and don't get a ton of money, I'm not overly concerned about that. And I think he has a really good chance. So I think he's kind of the prime candidate. I don't know how popular, I'll pull it up, how popular he's going to be. But I mean, I wouldn't mind Cam Young. If you were trying to make up ground, I'll tell you what, man, like I'd use Sahith.
Yeah.
I don't think I can. Like, I think there are just a lot of guys that are very usable right now.
I think that Cam Young tier of the odds board is probably where I would go.
What about like Tommy Fleetwood or Sung J M?
That's exactly what I was looking at. And I think for mine, I mean, I'll let you go first, but I was, that's kind of the range that I was going for. Even, guys like not super elites, but that next level of guys, even if you wanted to play somebody like Hovland or Hideki or Tom Kim, like even Spieth, I don't really have a problem with any of those guys. Burns, like I don't really think you need to go Rahm, Scheffler, or Rory at this event, but like that next tier of guys, I kind of like. Hatton.
So okay, so I was just gonna look to see if I've used Tyrrell Hatton yet. So I've not. So I'll use Tyrrell Hatton. I think that makes a lot of sense for you and I. However, I'm pulling up the ownership projections. Tyrrell Hatton is by far the most popular pick this week.
So, on the like for one and done or for DraftKings?
One and done. So he is 23% owned right now. The next closest is Patrick Cantlay at 8.7.
Yeah. So I think in like our head-to-head that pick makes a lot of sense.
Right.
I probably wouldn't go with a guy above 20% in bigger contests.
No, I would not either.
Is Sungjae and Fleetwood, are those guys both under 5%?
Yeah, so there's like so Sungjae, I have sub 1% right now. I have Fleetwood at 4.3%. So here's like the top 5-ish. So it's Hatton 22, Cantlay 8, Scotty at 7, Cam Young and Jason Day at 5 each, which I bet you Cam Young, especially in like our circles, comes in higher than that. Spieth, how about this one? Here are all the guys in the 4% range, and tell me which one of these does not match the others. Spieth, Kisner, Hovland, Fleetwood, Homa, Zalatoris. Kiz getting a lot of credit here.
Match play narrative. I mean, just wait. If Kiz somehow gets out of his group, we're gonna have to run back the entire Ryder Cup thing. And this year we're gonna get the people saying, "Oh, it's Rome. It's a shorter course. It's not Whistling Straight." So I'm very not excited for that discourse. I still remember yelling at people on Twitter that Scotty Scheffler was a better pick for the Ryder Cup than Kevin Kisner 2 years ago, and I will happily do it again if we get into the same argument. For our purposes, Rick, I'll go Sungjae.
Okay. I think that's good, by the way. I think in a lot of like the bigger one and dones, the Sungjae Fleetwood, it sucks that they're both in the same group, but like that one of those two, I think is a pretty strong play outside of Hatton, who's likely going to be very popular, Cam Young, who's going to be very popular. That Sungjae Fleetwood, and then you kind of hope that Scotty doesn't get out of his group, and if he does, maybe you find a little magic like that. I like that in some of the bigger one and dones.
Yeah, I think there are a ton of great options that you can go to. There's no fantasy this week, right?
There is no season-long fantasy, no.
Okay,
so
cool.
But
most people are doing one and dones.
Yes. Yeah. I made an executive decision before the season started because we would have had to drop our entire team to get 6 guys for Punta Cana. I said, it'll be a bye week. We'll get back at it next week.
I like that. Yeah. So I'm going Sungjae, you're going Hatton. And hopefully I can make up a little bit more ground before we get into, honestly, such an incredible stretch of golf coming up over the next couple of months.
Honestly, I mean, Sungjae loves playing golf. He might go out and win this thing. That'd be cool.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool for my bank account. I would take that any day. So yeah, super, super excited for this week and what's coming up ahead for us.
All right. So this is a Wednesday start. So the Rick Run Good live chat is happening today, Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. I'll see you guys over there in just a little bit. But for now, big thanks to producer Mina. She does all the hard work behind the scenes. That's Andy Lack. You can find him on Twitter at ADP Lack Sports. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been your betting preview for this week's WGC Match Play. Good luck.